On the day of their wedding, the bride-to-be unexpectedly chose her first love. She broke off the engagement in front of everyone. Ignoring the shocked faces of the guests below the stage, she threw away her bouquet and walked straight out of the wedding venue to chase after the man she had loved all her life, her first love. This made the groom the center of everyone's attention. Yet, all of this was within the man's expectations. 10 minutes earlier, the two of them had still been elderly people. The woman was dying from an illness, and before she passed away, her only wish was to be buried beside her first love, because her first love had died 30 years ago, and that had been her greatest regret. At that moment, the man finally realized that 40 years of devotion had never made the woman love him. What angered him even more was that when the assistant came with their son to settle the will, the woman left all her property to their son, and even asked him to honor her first love every year. The man, however, was thrown out of the house by her. Even their only son turned out to be her first love's child. Unknowingly, he had raised another man's child for 20 years. That truth infuriated him to death. Before dying, he swore that if he could live again, he would definitely leave the woman. Perhaps God heard his wish. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself back on their wedding day. Seeing the resentment in her eyes, he realized the woman had been reborn too. So when the officiant asked if he would take her as his wife, he gave a different answer than in his previous life. Watching her toss the bouquet and walk away without hesitation, he felt an unexpected sense of relief. When he met the apologetic gaze of his adoptive father, he held no blame toward him. He only wanted to resolve the aftermath quickly. Little did he know, a girl in the audience who had long admired him was secretly rejoicing that he hadn't gotten married. The next day, the man packed his belongings and prepared to leave the home he had lived in for 20 years. But just as he stepped outside, he saw the woman's first love at her house. The man didn't want to deal with either of them. Just as he was about to leave, the woman called out to stop him. Before he could respond, she demanded that he hand over the project he was most proud of from his previous life. The man agreed without hesitation, but his adoptive father suddenly appeared and stopped him, angrily scolding his daughter for her shameless behavior. He knew everything the man had done for them. Without the man's support, the company would have collapsed long ago. But the ignorant woman believed that all of it was thanks to her first love. She immediately began mocking the man, saying that if he handed over the project proposal, she would allow him to stay in the company. Hearing this, the man chuckled softly and said that not only would he hand over the proposal, he could also leave the company entirely. Then he took out the project worth $10 billion and the jade pendant he had carried for 20 years, returning them to the woman's father. Years ago, his adoptive father had taken him in. To repay that kindness, he had given everything he had to the company. Even before leaving, he pointed out several flaws in the project to them, warning that if they weren't fixed, the project would cost them at least $5 billion. Then the man turned to leave, but the first love stopped him maliciously, saying he wanted to settle 20 years of financial support, and that the man should leave with nothing. The father tried to object, but the woman stubbornly agreed with her first love. Seeing this, the man immediately called for the butler and told him to calculate all his expenses over the past 20 years. When the final number appeared, everyone was stunned to learn that the $3 million the man had spent at home had already, within 2 years after his graduation, turned into $20 billion in profits. But the man didn't want to argue with them. He simply took his luggage and left. Seeing his adopted son being driven away, the father angrily left the living room as well. Watching the man's departing figure, the woman suddenly felt a wave of emptiness. She hurried out, wanting to stop him from leaving, but her first love grabbed her tightly, leaving her no chance to explain. However, the first love seemed to think of a way to humiliate the man. Looking at the man's clothes worth hundreds of thousands, he smugly demanded the man strip naked before leaving. He thought the woman would stop him, but she only worried that the man's body was dirty and might stain her lover's hands. Upon hearing this, the man gave up all hope for her. He began undressing immediately. When only his underwear was left, he turned and left the home he had devoted 20 years to. As she watched his departing figure, the woman felt an unexpected pang of regret. Yet the memories of her past life wouldn't allow her to admit it. But her first love wasn't ready to let the man go. As he watched the reporters he'd called surround the man, he became even more pleased with himself. But the woman noticed the bicycle the man was riding, the same one he had used 5 years years ago to rush her to the hospital after her car accident. When she had woken up back then, it was her first love standing before her, which was why she had regretted marrying the man in her past life. But now, that familiar back and that bicycle made her doubt everything again, until she overheard that her first love didn't even know how to ride a bike. She finally snapped out of her shock, realizing she had mistaken her true savior. Just as she tried to run after him, dozens of bodyguards rushed forward, not only stopping the reporter's harassment, but also escorting the man back to his own company. And the owner of that company was the girl who had secretly loved him all along.